Hey guys, what's up? As the title suggests, today we're going to talk about which used graphics cards is the best for which budget, and which one is the best one to buy. What's the best price to performance deal that you can get on eBay primarily? We're using eBay right now, but it kind of applies to other sites, like Letgo and all those other apps and stuff, because they generally go for the same price, and eBay is usually the reference. So we have a lot of cards here today, and this is just the ones that were sitting on the shelves. So I'm going to start off with the card that you were probably all thinking about. This is an RX 580. Now, this is a cut-down version, but this represents the RX 580. A very common card, especially in the budget space, which goes for new a little less than $200. Now, used on eBay, the 8GB model, which is the one I use for reference all the time, goes for about $130. Now, that's not too expensive for a graphics card. That's $100 is a pretty great price. And in CSGO, all my benchmarks are from user benchmark, and they are most likely on max settings, judging by it. I am not a good YouTuber. But they're on max settings, and these are from user benchmark. So, CSGO, 226 FPS. PUBG, 61. GTA 5, 51 FPS. Fortnite, 74. And Battlefield 5, 61.4 FPS. Not bad for an RX 580. So, you can pick these up on eBay, pretty cheap. Make sure if you want to get the 8GB model, make sure it says 8GB specifically. Sometimes people will leave out the amount of gigabytes of VRAM just to try to trick you into buying their 4GB models. So, the RX 580 is a great card, but I also, while we're sticking in the budget end, let's head over to the NVIDIA side and see what they have for the same price point. So, for the same price point, we have this. This is a Founders Edition, but realistically, just the GTX 980. Now, this is 2 generations old, so a lot of people don't think about the GTX 980 when they're building a new PC. But on the budget end, this thing is amazing. So it goes for about the same price of, I add a little bit of taxes into the price, because you can see the price, but there's always going to be taxes and fees. And with the prices and everything, with taxes, you're looking at about $130 as well. $130 for a GTX 980, and performance-wise, the CSGO FPS is wrong, but Fortnite you're looking at 105 FPS, PUBG 70, GTA 5 61, League of Legends 191, Minecraft 207, and Battlefield 5 74. So higher than the RX 580 in some games, lower in others. But honestly, some of the advantages, like plus 9 FPS in PUBG, plus 10 FPS in GTA 5, and in Fortnite you're looking at 30 FPS extra. Yeah, and these are on max settings. Who plays on max settings anyway? But I can imagine you lower your settings a bit, GTX 980, and I'm not even like an NVIDIA shill or anything. I use AMD cards. I have 2 of these Vega 64s in the back. We'll talk about that later. And I just think the 980 is just such a good price. Now, this one only has 1 6-pin connector. This one has 2. I hate 6-pin connectors. Just, that's besides the point. Alright, the next card, guys, is going up the ladder, kind of, the GTX 1070. Wait, I'm getting confused. The GTX 1070. Now, this is admittedly a hybrid card that I dropped and broke entirely, but it still is here to represent a GTX 1070. So GTX 1070, you can find for about $180 on eBay. If you get into a bidding war, you could probably lower it down. And in terms of all these cards, you could probably get them down $30 by winning a bid. So, $180 on eBay. What you gain over the 980 is 2 extra gigs of VRAM, though it's only regular GDDR5 instead of GDDR5X, like the TI model we'll talk about later. And you're looking at a pretty big improvement, 70 FPS in CSGO, so you're looking at 250 now instead of 183. GTA 5, you're looking at 76 instead of 61. PUBG, you're looking at 95 instead of 70. Fortnite, you get 101, which is actually less than the 105. So you do, I don't know why, it might just be like, just assume human error. And Battlefield 5, you actually get less FPS, you get 65 as opposed to 74. Though I'm pretty sure if you tweak the settings, you get more. I'm not sure about those last few games that are below. But the GTX 1070 is kind of like a GTX 980 Ti. Though the 980 is the 80, this is the 70 model, so you can kind of expect the 980 to beat it in some games. And for $80 less in some cases, I still recommend the 980 over it, but the 1070 would be great for streamers. That's what I want to talk about today, because I am a streamer and I do a lot of streaming. I know X264 versus NVENC versus the AMD's encoder. I'm sorry, AMD, your encoder sucks. But the NVIDIA Pascal encoder, the new one's great, but Turing just isn't worth it right now for streamers. In my opinion, like in terms of used graphics cards. The Pascal architecture, the Pascal encoder is amazing for streaming. So a 1070 would beat a 980 if you're going for live streaming at a budget. So speaking of budget, let's move along here to our better card, which is the 1070 Ti. 1070 Ti, yes. I mean, I got this for $200, but on eBay you're looking at about $250. And not to mention, this is like the lightest. This is probably the cheapest model you can get of the GTX 1070. Like, they even use the shroud from from a different card. Now, back to what I was saying. GTX 1070 Ti, you're looking at about $250 on eBay right now. And GTA 5, though, you get a handy about a 9 FPS increase on GTA 5 to about 85. Fortnite, you get 129, so that's about a 30 FPS increase, 28-ish FPS over the 1070. 94 in PUBG, which is actually one less than the 1070, but I think that's just error. So more, and Battlefield 5, you're looking at a 14 FPS increase. And these are all max settings, don't forget, in case you guys forgot. So, pretty good. It's a good increase. All they did compared to the 1070 Ti, from the 1070 to the 1070 Ti, what they actually did is they just changed out the memory from GDDR5 to GDDR5X. Still, you have 8 gigs. You have the same amount of CUDA cores and shader units and all that stuff, I'm pretty sure. So they just changed out the memory, which actually has been proven multiple times to do a significant amount of difference in gaming. Like, look at the 1660 to the 1660 Super. They just did the same thing. They're trying to take your money. So, finally, we're going to move on to our last card. Now, I want to say this card is here. This is a modified card. This card is here. This is the 1080 Ti. This is actually here to represent the 80 series of the 10s and the RTX, whatever. This is here. This represents the 1080. And honestly, I wouldn't recommend a 1080. Probably a lot of you were thinking the 1080s on eBay can go upwards of $300 to $400, and depending on the model. Like, if you found a model like this one, now this one's modified. I custom painted it gold. Ooh, it's a lot of money. And especially with the 1080 Ti, you can find $500 to $700 just isn't worth it for a 1080 Ti. In the 1080, honestly, maybe if you're streaming and you really need a 1080, but honestly, I just don't think it's worth it right now in terms of getting the best deal for budget cards used. So the 1080, I'm not going to talk about this video. I will probably make a whole nother video about 1080. But finally, our last card, which we're going to talk about, back to AMD. Now, this is clearly a Vega 64 Liquid Cooled Edition. I have two. But there's one actually in the box behind me. Whoa. This is to represent the Vega 56, not Vega 64. Can't read. So the Vega 56 runs you about $200 right now on eBay. So that's less than the 1070 Ti. And the FPS, you're looking at CSGO 225, GTA 5 69, nice. PUBG 82, Fortnite 103, and Battlefield 5 82.8. So you're looking at, actually, the prices match their performance, which I've never really seen before. The 1070 is a little below the Vega 56, and the 1070 Ti is a little bit above it. So the Vega 56 is a nice sweet spot for that gamer in the middle trying to get a good deal. You can find the Vega 56 for as cheap as $150 on eBay. And honestly, at that point, you're looking, that's the same price as a new RX 580. So the Vega 56 is a great deal. Now, the reason I specifically said not the Vega 64, it usually goes for more money. And if you really need that kind of performance, like the extra little oomph, just flash a Vega 64 BIOS onto a Vega 56 to get basically the same performance, from what I've read, which is not much. So, this is kind of a roundup today. If I forgot any cards, please let me know in the description below. I purposely left out some cards like the R9 Fury X, which sells for way more than it should, because it is like a collector's edition card. So, for reference, cards that you should be looking at right now if you're on an ultra budget, the GTX 980 and the RX 580. The cards you should be looking at if you have a middle range budget, the GTX 1070 and the Vega 56, and for the higher end, the GTX 1070 Ti. If you're a streamer looking for a good budget card, I would highly recommend the GTX 1070. Used, you can get a great price, and using that Pascal encoder, you can actually have a high quality stream. Hope you guys kind of enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments below and like the video if you liked it, dislike it, and yell at me if you didn't. Tweet at me, I don't know. But that's the point. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.